Hi, my name is Amarantha Skinner. I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago. One interesting fact about me is when I was little, kids used to make fun of me. They would ask me, "Where are you from?" And I would say, "From the West Indies." And they would say, "You're Indian? Did you live in a tent?" And this is the way that I would get greeted day after day. That was really offensive. Which brings me to my two words for today's discussion: cultural competency and cultural humility. Cultural competency is a word that social workers use to master the way that other people's culture is. It helps us to have a sensitivity to the people that we serve by learning a little bit about their culture. Cultural humility, on the other hand, is what I've spent a little over a decade trying to accomplish. In order for me to understand how to be sensitive, I felt, to others' needs, I needed to understand who I was. Because I grew up in a household where we brought Trinidad to the United States. Our food was Trinidadian, our music was Trinidadian, our family members and friends and the parties we went to were Trinidadian. We went to the Trinidad Carnival, and we did everything surrounding our own culture, which, in my opinion, made us feel like we were different and maybe kind of even standoffish from the others that lived in America. I also was grown up to believe that maybe on a superior level, being Caribbean was better. Our education was better. The way that our manners were better. The way that we spoke to each other, the way that we interacted, how smart we were, what we ate, everything was better. And I think that superiority made me feel, growing up, that others weren't equal to us. And that to me was negativity. I also could not figure out who I was because of that. I don't think that even like my family members knew who they were. When I started about 10 years ago to study the Trinidad culture, I started to understand that it was rich in slavery. Rich in slavery, I want to say rich because before me studying it, that wasn't taught to me that slaves arrived in Trinidad. The prejudice that I thought was because everybody thought that they were better really came from how the distribution of slavery was in Trinidad, how the Indian people came over as indentured, and the African slaves were, used like people who didn't have anything to offer. The land was given to the Indians, and the Africans had to work the land. It made a division in how they saw each other right away. Because my family was more specific with, the Indian, the Spanish, the French, they kind of left out the part that we could have had, and we do have, the African blood. And it seemed almost as if it was because of being ashamed. But I think it was really after I studied it, it was because they weren't taught. The humility of knowing who you are helps you to deal with other people. I can identify now with someone who only sees themselves as Spanish and doesn't see themselves as anything besides that Spanish blood. I can identify with all kinds of things because I had to find out who I was. So cultural humility, in my opinion, is learning enough about yourself in order for you to be able to understand other people's culture. That's humility. Cultural competency is a learned mastery of skills, of understanding that people exist and that they have different skills, that they have different ways of doing things, but not really understanding. It reminds me of empathy and sympathy. I can have sympathy for somebody and, but to feel what a person is feeling, to have empathy for them is a little bit different. And that's how I see cultural competency versus cultural humility. In my practice, in being a social worker, I believe that I will be able to understand what people really need. I want to help people, and I've been doing this helping thing for a long time, but I want to be able to really make a difference in how I help people now. And I think that this Masters in Social Work program has really done that for me. It's helping me to see it a different way. Before I came in as I was going to do it my way. I was maternal. I'm this, I'm that. I came with this, God-given skill. But actually, the humility of being in this class, of being in this program has taught me that I still have a lot to learn. Lastly, one of the first questions in part A was what population I wanted to help. And just today, I decided that I want to help people who are hearing impaired. I want to do therapy for people who can't hear. And then my second choice would be immigration because of all the things that my family have to go through in order to feel safe, in order to feel like they belong. Immigration is another one of my favorites. So I haven't really figured out yet. I do really, really like the impaired because I thought about a client that I have currently that I wonder how he is getting his needs met when people really aren't equipped to help him because no one signs. His doctor probably doesn't sign. The therapist doesn't sign. And he's got a diagnosis. He's got a dual diagnosis of diabetes and schizophrenia. So I wonder how people are helping him as he is hearing impaired. So thank you for listening to me. Bye.